Hey, Evan here, one of the co-founders of Homegrown, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to write great product descriptions that sell more products. And I'm going to teach you how to use AI to do it so that it doesn't take a lot of brain power. You can get it done in a few minutes. I'll give you the exact copy and paste template that you can literally screenshot and then upload into ChatGPT or Claude. You can also check out the description below in order to get some of those prompts as well. So let's hop into it. The first thing that I actually want to show you is all the areas that you can write descriptions. So if you go to your vendor dashboard and then you go to business or vendor information, you can come here and edit this publicly available information like your vendor name. You can add email. Currently, you can add email and phone. Understand that this will be publicly accessible. So if you don't want people emailing you or phone, don't put that there. And then you're going to give an overview as well as a description. So that is just your vendor profile, but we're going to be talking more specifically about products, but most of these prompts you could easily adapt to edit your vendor profile as well. So let's go to products. So I select products and let's say, you could be adding a new product, go to this top right, hit add a product, but I'll actually just go ahead and hop into edit. Here you see chocolate sea salt cookies, which look delicious. I also see that my formatting was not consistent. If you notice, I just changed all of these to be capitalized, which I would suggest for the title. And then you could just do regular, case for the rest of your description. I think we give you a limit of around 2,000 to 4,000 characters for description and about 200 characters for the name. In some instances, if you have 200, actually in most instances, if you have a long name, it will get cut off. So generally the shorter the better, but still being descriptive. So chocolate sea salt cookies versus cookies, for example, is going to perform better. And then for description, you do want to have more than just a sentence or two, but at some point it also will cut you off and they'll have to click to expand. So more is not always better, but we'll get into more of the details around how to actually write better descriptions. But that is first how you edit it. You can go edit them under products, click on them, click here, and then actually hit save. Don't forget to hit save when you're done. And you can also go to vendor information, and then you can edit your vendor info there. Okay, so let's get into how to actually update product descriptions so you sell more products. So here's the problem, is that I look at vendor storefronts every single day within the Homegrown, and what I see is that there are a lot of them that don't have a description or have a bad description or just a product name and a photo. And the ones that do have a description often are stuff like fresh baked sourdough bread, which doesn't tell me a lot besides just that it's sourdough bread. And what we really want to do is we want to sell people on your products around what makes you unique and your products unique, and really equip them with your story. And I'm going to give you the tools to make it really easy. And I get this. If you're just starting, go ahead and upload that and then go back and edit it later. That's generally what I do, is I'll just give some basic info. And then when I'm maybe at my computer or I've got more time, I'll actually go and use AI to rewrite the description. So we're going to help them make a buying decision, and we're going to tell them what it is and why or why not someone should buy your version of that product. And the good news is that this is one of the easiest ways to sell more products. Photos can sometimes be a little bit more challenging, but these descriptions can be fixed in just a few minutes. So you might be wondering to yourself, does anyone actually read any of these descriptions? And they do. They really do, especially when they're considering you versus some other alternative, if that's Storefront or someone else that sells products like yours. And so this is when they're kind of a step further down in the buying process, when they've looked at the photos, they come across your vendor, you as a vendor, they're looking at the descriptions of you as a vendor, and now they're looking at descriptions of the products. So at the farmer's market, customers can reach out, they can touch and sell, touch and smell your products. They, for the sourdough, which is our classic example, they can ask you questions, they can watch other people buying it. But when you're online, all you get is a photo and some text. That's it. There's no smell, there's no samples, which we know samples is definitely one of the best parts about the farmer's market. And there's no conversation, there's no relationship. So your description really is the sales pitch when you're not in the room. So this also helps with search. So when people are searching for products like yours, when you have that in the description, you're more likely to show up. It also builds trust. So the specific details make you look professional, Blank descriptions make people wonder if the storefront is actually active or you'll be there to fulfill the products. The next is the price justification. In another video, we talked about how to price products correctly, but in this, we want to really explain why your product is better than something from the storefront or a grocery store or whatever. So the last one is that we want to reduce questions. We want to also overcome objections. So if you think about why would people not want to buy your product specifically, they might be wondering about, some intolerances they have, or how fresh they are they soft cookies, are they hard cookies? They want to know all these things that are going to get in the way that they would normally be able to see in person. So we want to reduce the number of questions that they have in these product descriptions. So the 4-part product description formula, what we want to do is answer what it is and clearly name it in the first sentence. We also want to talk about what makes your product special or your unique product or unique selling proposition. And this is the part that most vendors skip, and this is the part that really sells the most. And then you want to talk about who's it for and when they'd use it. You want to help them visualize, hey, this sourdough loaf here, you're going to use this to make grilled cheese for your kids, or when you have friends over, they're going to really appreciate this craft artisan loaf that you couldn't get at Whole Foods or somewhere else. Help them imagine them buying your product. The next part is practical details, things like size, allergens, shelf life, and storage. What we actually allow you to do is give different variants of your products. And so I would suggest adding all of the respective variants, not necessarily flavors, but if you have stuff like size, you can add flavors, but I like to see those, if you don't have a lot of products, I like to see those as separate products. But definitely things like size and maybe scent or weight, other kind of metrics like that. So size, allergens, storage, that kind of stuff. Like how long is this actually going to be good, shelf stable? All right, part 1, what is it? We want to clearly label what it is in the first sentence. For example, we want to say something like classic sourdough loaf, not the rustic crunch. That sounds cute and clever, but we really want to make it descriptive, clear, concise, credible, and compelling. Something like wildflower honey is going to be more searchable on our marketplace, and it's also going to be more easily understood by prospective buyers. You don't want them to have to guess what it is that you're buying. If they have to guess, they'll likely leave and they won't buy it. Next, we want to get into what makes yours special. This is the part that most vendors skip, and it's always the thing that I think sells the most. You need to talk about what ingredients do you use, what's special about your process for how you make your products, where do you source your product ingredients from, how is yours different from the grocery store version or the vendor who's 2 booths down from yours. Examples of how to actually do that. You could say stuff like 48-hour fermentation using organic flour from a local Georgia mill, which I'm in the Atlanta area. So that would sound really good to me. That would feel like I'm going to get better quality, fresher ingredients. Another example would be cold pressed from wildflowers on our 10-acre farm in Canton. This is very descriptive, and it tells me what's unique about your product. Now that might be true for everyone else out there, but if you're telling me, I'm going to feel like yours is special in some way. So you can actually, think about this in kind of a mental framework or model. If you can replace the product name with your competitor's name and the description still works, it's not specific enough. And what I mean by that is if I say delicious chocolate chip cookies, that's not going to tell me why. Like if you could swap that out with any other vendor, it's not going to tell me why yours are special. Do yours use artisan flour? Do you use locally sourced butter? Like what are the things that make your product specific, unique and specific? Another thing that we like to do is tell us who's it for and when you'd use it. So this is the hardest part to write, but it often makes people picture or visualize in your life, the product in your life. I love this. I'm a copywriter, by trade, if you will, for the last couple of years doing marketing. And I think that this is the stuff that is really fun and it stands out. So let's just do 3 or 4 of these. So candles, calming enough for the bedroom, clean enough for the kitchen. Eggs, the kind of eggs you'll notice the difference from the first time you crack one. It helps them visualize that moment. Flowers, bright enough to be the centerpiece, lasting enough to enjoy all week. And here are some examples. If it were me, I would literally screenshot this, put it in the ChatGPT, tell it more about your product. and say, hey, I want something like this, but specific to your product. You're not writing poetry. You're trying to help people imagine what it's like to use your product. The next part is the practical details, things like size, weight, quantity, allergens, shelf life, and storage, or common questions that keep someone from actually hitting add to cart. You want to answer them so that they have zero friction. They don't have to contact you to figure out the details. You want to have it all right there. So if you don't have size and weight as variants, you need to add that as a description. And then you also want to include stuff like allergens, dietary info, shelf life, quantity, and storage. All of these are very important. So the name field, we allow 200 characters, but ideally, 50 or less characters is, great. The description, same as we allow up to 4,000 characters currently. We're probably going to shorten that at some point, but you don't need anywhere near that as far as the description. Anywhere between 80 and 150 words is a great sweet spot where it's descriptive, it's specific, but it's not, so lengthy that no one will read it. Often the longer something is, people will read less of it. So shorter is typically better. Now here's a before and after example of like a bad example to something that could be improved. So fresh baked sourdough, again, that's interchangeable for any other vendor out there. But if we could improve that to something like naturally leavened sourdough with a 48-hour fermentation using organic flour from a local Georgia mill. Tangy, chewy crust with a soft open crumb, perfect for weekend toast, sandwiches, or alongside soup. Approximately 1.5 pounds per loaf, contains wheat, best within 5 days or freeze up to 3 months. I mean, I'm buying that right now. That is delicious sourdough. I'm excited about it. Cannot wait to pick it up. So it tells them the process, the sourcing, the texture, when to eat it, the size, the allergens, and the storage. All of that is going to justify a $15 loaf of sourdough. All right, now let's do candles. Again, I think for the before, you can always think, okay, could someone else just copy and paste this description and it be accurate for them? Hand-poured soy candles smells great. Not compelling. But if you say something like hand-poured soy wax candle made in small batches with cotton wicks and, I don't know how to say that, parafiltrate-free fragrance oils, lavender and eucalyptus blend, calming enough for the bedroom, clean enough for the kitchen. 8-ounce jars, approximately 50 hours of burn time. Glass jars reusable after burning. Holy cow. How great is that? That's some pro level copywriting. They're going to know stuff like the wax type, the wick type, what kind of chemical free that is, and what it smells like, and where to use it, how long it lasts, and that the jar has a second life. Here's another example for eggs. I'll let you just read this. Farm fresh eggs, 1 dozen, and then you can see here how much better that this one is. You could use these, again, as a copy and paste example and swap it out with your info. Soap, I like this one much better. Cold processed lavender soap made with olive oil, coconut oil, and shea butter. I don't know. I don't even know how soaps are made. Maybe they're all cold processed, but it sounds cool. It sounds different. It feels like it's better than what I could get at the store, for sure. And the goal is not to be deceitful. It's just to be descriptive and help elevate your product as a premium offering. So I'm going to help show you how to use ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, any of these AI tools, which you can use for free. And you're going to get great outputs. Now, the things that we need for this to work really well are context. We want to tell it what about, information about you so that it knows what it can work with. We want to give it specific details about you and your products. We also want to tell it how to sound. So tell it, is it warm, conversational, not corporate? Does it feel organic? Then we also want to give it constraints. We want to tell it what not to do. Stuff like no emojis, no made with love. We want to give it constraints for the overall character length. And then lastly, we want to give it examples. This is one of the best ways to get better outputs from AI is to show it examples of what it matches. Because at the end of the day, most of these LLMs and artificial intelligence machine learning are using pattern recognition. And so if you can give it a pattern to replicate, it's going to do a better job. I'm going to give you these exact prompts. In the description, we may not be able to fit all of them. So you can just screenshot this and then you can upload that screenshot into one of these. So I'll read this to you and I'll try to explain it along the way. So this is going to be generating a description from scratch. So you've got no description yet. And what you're going to do is you're going to fill in the brackets with your details. Another pro tip is I use this tool called Whisper Flow, and I can dictate. I can press a button right here and I can dictate what I wanted to say. So I literally just copy paste this. And then for each of these little brackets here, I would just hit Whisper Flow and dictate what I wanted it to say. But for you, if you don't know how to do that, that's fine. You could just type it in. It's not a big deal. So write a product description for a product that I sell at a farmer's market or on an online platform called Homegrown about me. So now you're giving it context. I am such and such type of vendor, and I'm based in this city and state. Those things are going to make it really, the more context, the better. It's going to output a much better description for you. You're going to give it information about your product and be as specific as you can. You want to list key ingredients and materials. You want to tell it what you think makes yours different. You want to give it the size, weight, quantities. You want to basically give it all the things that we talked about earlier. And then you can copy and paste, whatever examples that you liked into here. And you might tell it specifically, you don't do sourdough, you do candles, you do eggs, you do vegetables, but you like the style of this. And then here's the constraints, under 150 words, you're going to have stuff like practical details. You're going to use a warm, confident tone, like you're talking to a farmer at a customer at a booth. No emojis, no exclamation marks, no marketing jargon. So literally copy this and then paste it and then fill out your details and you'll get an awesome description. Now here's a similar prompt, but now you want to improve an existing description. So you want to take your, one of the previous bad descriptions and copy and paste it and insert it here. You're going to give the same information. You don't have to start a new chat. You can basically let the large language model or AI learn from you in one chat. So if you, give it all this information about you to start, it can reference that for other products as well, which is great. Now you can generate stuff for all of your storefront all at once if you want. I find that you get better outputs if you slow it down one by one. It's going to take more time to think about each one of those descriptions. But let's say that you want to have, your 5 different types of sourdough loaves you want to address all at one time. You could use this prompt to do that as well. So what this looks like in practice, as far as an input, the things that you'll have to fill in, about you, you're a beekeeper based in Canton, Georgia. Your product is wildflower honey. The key ingredients is raw, unfiltered honey from your hives. And you talk about what makes yours different, the size, the allergens, the shelf life, and all of that takes you about 2 minutes. Review it, tweak it, make sure it sounds like you, and then paste it into the AI and then review the output. And then you can copy this and then insert it right here into Homegrown. That's simple. So common mistakes is only listing ingredients without context. Stuff like, contains flour, wheat, salt, and starter is a recipe, not necessarily a description that makes it different. You want to tell them why those ingredients matter and what's the result. The second thing is writing for yourself instead of the customer. You already know your products are great. Likely you have the curse of knowledge and you forget how awesome they are, how different they are. Your customers don't know that. So you want to write for the person seeing this for the first time who's deciding between your product and doing nothing or shopping at a grocery store. The other thing is making it too long. So having too many words, people are going to look at that and subconsciously they're not going to read it. They're just going to skim over it. And yes, you could input 4,000 characters, but people are not going to read all word by word. They're going to skim it. So you want to make your copywriting very skimmable. The next thing is that you use the same opening for every product. This is another common mistake. If every description starts with "are handcrafted," your storefront looks a bit robotic and like AI. And so we want to, you can coach the AI to write better descriptions for you. And the next part is forgetting the practical details. So have it double check itself. And you, if you're just writing it yourself, can double check it yourself as well. Include all of the things that make it easier to understand what your product includes. The last part is trying to be clever instead of clear. Man, this is the one that I see a lot of vendors fall into as a trap. Stuff like nature's golden elixir kissed by the sun. That doesn't tell me anything. It has to be more specific and clear. Clear, concise, credible, and compelling are the 4 C's that I like to adhere by in copywriting, and that is none of those. So raw wildflower honey from our farms in Canton, Georgia is clear, concise, credible, and compelling in my opinion. So here's what you need to do. You need to start with your first 3 products. If you have time, go ahead and go through all of them and then take those prompts that I mentioned, copy and paste those into whatever your favorite LLM is, large language model. I like Claude right now. I feel like it does the best at writing. And then you fill in the brackets with your information, taking about 2 minutes. It can take even less if you use a tool like Whisperflow. Then you're going to paste all of your info or copy paste it into ChatGPT or Claude. Then you're going to review the output, read it out loud. If it feels weird to read it out loud, you need to redo it. It should sound like you. And you can chat back and forth with the AI if you want to make it sound more like you. And then ultimately, you're going to copy and paste, add it into your product description and name. You can work on different name options as well. And then do this throughout the rest of your storefront. So I believe in you. I think you're going to do great. Your products are worth talking about. A description doesn't make your product better. It helps customers understand how great your product already is, and it communicates the value. You can copy the prompts from this video description and go ahead and update your store right away. Best of luck.